Every so often, a real David versus Goliath story pops up in the world of tech, and that is exactly what we are looking at today. A new open-source AI model is taking on the giants, and honestly, the results are pretty shocking.
So it really begs the question, right? In this AI race, does the biggest team with the deepest pockets always win? For a long time, it sure seemed like the answer was yes. But what if clever engineering could completely change the game?
For a while now, it's felt like the big proprietary models, the ones from the huge tech companies, they've just been pulling away, getting better and better, while the open source community has been trying to keep up.
But what if that's all about to change? A new open source contender just stepped into the ring. And folks, it's not just closing the gap. In some cases, it's actually taking the lead.
Okay, so to really get why this is such a big deal, we have to rewind a little and understand the problem it's solving. Let's dive into what's been called AI's Great Divide. So on one side, you've got the giants. Think of their performance curve like a rocket ship, just going straight up. And on the other side, you've got the open source world, making solid progress for sure, but struggling to keep up. That gap was becoming a real problem for the entire ecosystem.
So the team behind this new model basically zeroed in on three big roadblocks. First, the old architecture was just clunky, inefficient, especially when you fed it long documents. Second, there just wasn't enough computational horsepower being thrown at the post-training phase. That's the really crucial refinement stage. And third, the models weren't great at being agents. Using tools, following complex instructions. They were kind of lagging there.
And that right there is where DeepSeek V3.2 comes in. This thing wasn't just another small update. It was built from the ground up to tackle those three specific challenges head-on.
So, you're probably wondering, how on earth did they pull this off? Well, it boils down to three really clever breakthrough innovations that are powering this thing's performance. Let's get into them.
Okay, so we're going to look at each of these. First, a brand new, super efficient way of paying attention. Second, a huge strategic investment in that post-training phase. And third, a totally new method for teaching the AI how to be a smarter, more capable agent. All right, first up, DeepSeek Sparse Attention, or DSA. The best way to think about this is like a brilliant researcher in a massive library. The old way, for every single question, the researcher would have to reread every single book. Exhausting, right? DSA is like giving that researcher a magic index that instantly points to the exact paragraphs they need. It's a game changer.
So, the old way, what they called vanilla attention. It literally had to look at every single piece of information it had already seen to make its next move. It's slow and it's expensive. The new sparse attention, DSA, is way smarter. It just surgically picks out the key info it needs. It is much faster and much, much cheaper.
And this is where the rubber meets the road. Look at this chart. It shows you the real-world cost of processing 1 million tokens. Think of them as little bits of text. The difference isn't just a small improvement. It's a massive drop in how much it costs to run this thing, especially for really long inputs. That's huge.
Okay, breakthrough number 2. This one is all about strategy. Instead of just dumping all their computing power into the initial training, the team made a really smart move and poured a huge chunk of it into the refinement phase, what's called post-training.
And we're not talking about a small amount here. They dedicated more than 10% of the original training budget just to this refinement stage. Think about that. That massive investment is what allowed the model to get really, really good at the hard stuff, complex reasoning and tricky problem solving.
And the third big breakthrough, this is all about teaching the AI to, think before it acts. It's about giving it the ability to plan, to use tools, and to follow a complex series of steps without getting lost.
And this diagram shows you exactly how it works. When the model is working on a multi-step problem, it can now hold on to its chain of thought. It doesn't have to start over from scratch every time it uses a tool, which makes it way more efficient and a whole lot more powerful.
So we've got a smarter architecture, a huge investment in refinement, and better reasoning. The big question is, does it actually work? How does this new contender stack up against the giants? All right, let's get to the showdown. And the results are, they're pretty mind-blowing. Look at this. On major benchmarks for math and coding, DeepSeek V3.2 isn't just playing in the same league as a top-tier model like OpenAI's GPT-5 High, it's literally going toe-to-toe. And check this out. On agent tasks, it's actually beating it.
But wait, it gets even crazier. That's not the whole story. The team cooked up an experimental version, a high-compute variant they call Special,
just to see how far they could push its reasoning abilities.
And wow, the results here are just unprecedented for an open source model. This Speciale version hit gold medal level performance at the International Math Olympiad, the Informatics Olympiad, and the World Finals for competitive coding. I mean, these are the absolute pinnacles of human competition. It's incredible.
Just look at this chart. This is for an elite math competition. The open-source model, DeepSeek V3.2 Special A, didn't just hang with the big dogs from Google and OpenAI. It flat-out surpassed them. This is a massive moment for open-source AI.
Okay, so this is obviously more than just a really cool science project. This has some serious implications for the future. Let's talk about why this matters so much.
So what should you take away from all this? Well, first, that clever engineering can absolutely compete with raw, brute force resources. Second, that this incredibly powerful AI is getting way more efficient and way more affordable. And maybe most importantly, open source is no longer just catching up, it's an elite contender. The playing field is really starting to level out. And that leaves us with one final, really powerful question to think about. For so long, the most advanced AI has been locked behind corporate doors. Now, tools with this kind of power are being handed over to developers everywhere for free. What happens when everyone can build with this? Well, that's a future that's going to be very interesting to watch unfold.